All right, everyone, here is your chance to be an insider for a day and help out kids while you're doing it. The Beer Temple is teaming up with Doug Valicki, a.k.a. Nostra Douglas, a.k.a. The Beer Aficionado, and on and on and on, to allow one lucky person to be an insider for a day. Not just that, you can help pick the topics. You can pick all the topics if you want. You can help pick the guests. You can help pick all the guests if you want. Is there a certain guest you haven't heard for a while or one of your favorites? Let us know. It's all an open book. It's all up to you. And all the proceeds go to Laurie's Children's Hospital. It's really a win-win-win because you're helping us too, because I don't have to think about what to talk about. I can dish that off on to you. Anyway, check it out. It's at the Beer Aficionado's Instagram page is probably the best place to get information. And we'll be seeing one of you here at Studio BT soon. It's Tuesday, July 2nd, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello and welcome to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Quinn. No co-host today, just myself in the hosting seat. But as you could tell from the fade, I am not completely alone on the production side. We do have the fade master in-house. Serge is here on the mixer, so thanks to him for bringing us in. Thanks to Lumpin' Radio for continuing to host us, 105.5 FM, WLPN, Bridgeport, Chicago. Thanks to all the folks there for putting up with us. And thanks to all the listeners out there. Always appreciate it, whether you're listening to us on Lumpin' Radio or wherever you get your podcasts. That's what people say now. I say now. They've been saying that for like 10 years. Wherever you get your podcasts. So thanks to all you, and keep the letters and the emails and electronic letters coming. Very much appreciate it. We'll be getting to some of those soon. But yeah, it's just me and one guest. We've got an intimate little show, one-on-one. We haven't done too many of these. And I've never done it with a first-time guest, so I think I should probably get right into it. And the way it goes is first-time guests introduce themselves.
Uh-oh.
So can you tell everybody who you are and what you do, please?
My name is Ed Marzuski.
Yes, well done. You're way too low volume for anyone to buy that.
You're right. My name's Dave Dahl, the former founder of Low Res Brewing in Pilsen. And
Still the founder, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And I'm recently, 6 months or so, been director of operations at Moody Tongue in, I guess it's Bronzeville kind of area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thanks for coming
And I'm
on.
stoked to be here.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming for me. I've been wanting to have you on the show for, I think, close to 5 months or so it's been. And for people who listen, they're not surprised that it's taking me that long to get my act together. But thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm a longtime fan of your podcast, and I love the Beer Temple. It's just great walking in the front door again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, good. It was good to see you coming in. So what we'll do, we're going to start out in classic Beer Temple fashion, and we'll talk about some beers that we've had lately or are looking forward to having or whatever that may be. I will go first this time because it's a beer that I've been just really enjoying. I actually have two. The first is White Light from Middlebrow, a beer that's been around, one of their oldest beers.
I love that beer.
Revisited it at Bungalow.
Yeah.
Blown away. Just really, really enjoyed it. The apricot was just really coming through, and I harangued the powers that be at the Beer Temple to get a keg in here. And it was in line to go up after a certain beer.
Right.
I started ordering that beer.
When
I was having a beer here, I was like, I'm going to have one of them. I'm going to have another one of them just to get the White Light on. And I'm having one right now, and I very much enjoy it. Perfect, like, light beer for the summer. So that's my first one. And then my second one, shout out to Doug Valicki, a.k.a., man, where do I start? So many noms to beer. The Beer Aficionado, Beer Cruncher, Nostra Douglas, all you know him. And he brought back an XPA from Alvarado Street. And knowing I was such a fan of Firestone Walker's XPA, and I had that one, and man, I liked it. I think I'm officially a fan of that style, which I didn't really know was a style until recently. I just thought it was a beer that Firestone Walker created, XPA, like a play on APA. But if you don't know, Dave, it is essentially an APA. It's an American Pale Ale, but it uses Southern Hemisphere, New Zealand hops.
Oh, right on.
It. So it's like a New Zealand Pale Ale. They call it XPA, Extra Pale Ale. Yeah. If you see one, I highly recommend you give it a try if you are in the mood.
Right.
And
sure.
Yeah, very nice. So those are my two. How about you? Anything that you've had or are looking forward to having?
Yeah, so
in the beverage world.
Right. So I'm taking a hiatus from drinking right now. I did bring some beers to share.
Yeah.
And I might indulge on a sip of one of the special beers that I brought. Mm-hmm. But the beer. So I've thought a lot about beer. It's been 3 months now.
Okay.
And what I really, really miss are beautiful Belgian beers that typically are hard to find unless they come from Belgium and are handled appropriately. Mm-hmm. As they're here at Beer Temple, stop by.
Yeah.
And specifically Orval. Like, Orval is just, I think, is just one of the most beautiful, mysterious, seductive beers, and the way it changes depending on temperature or age or how it's served. I think it's just absolutely mind-blowing.
And it's a beer that just has... So when I was first getting into craft beer, however many years ago, I mean, that was kind of a revered beer, and I would read about people who were in the industry being asked what their favorite beer was, and Orval was coming up, and time and again. And it's funny how, there's been, man, if there's 10,000 breweries, I mean, how many new beers have there been? Probably 1 million new beers, but that one keeps coming up. Just yesterday, there was somebody that came into the shop and didn't really know anything about beer, but her brother was coming into town from, I think, East Coast somewhere. Right. And she just wanted to get some different beers for him. And we picked out like 4 or 5 just from either around the city or around the country. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good, that's nice. We've got an IPA, we have a Saison, stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that's good. And I was like, you know what? Hold on a second. I just grabbed an Orval. It's like, you got to have that too.
Right.
Just yesterday.
It's got to go into every mix pack.
Yeah. It's like, if he's into beer, I mean, if he hasn't had it, then
Then he
well,
should.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Right,
And if
yeah.
he has had it, then no one's gonna
He'll love it.
Yeah, no one's gonna be upset to see that in there. So,
Right.
yeah, it's just one of those beers that's just like it's up there. I can totally see that. So we can let's just get right into it. So
Sure.
So the idea to have you on the show for me started when, and I don't know if you remember this or not, we were at Delilah's,
Yeah.
and it was at one of the big hootenannies that Mike Miller puts on, where, there's a cast of characters who shows up, and you and I tend to be, on that short list, I would say.
Yeah.
And it was busy. And
Was it the holiday party? I feel like it was the fall. Or maybe it was like the industry something.
Oh, yeah. I don't. Or was it his? Was it his like 30th anniversary or 25th anniversary
Maybe that's
or
what it was.
something like that?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I don't remember. It was. He does
No,
a
it was the
few of
anniversary
those.
party, and he had like poker cards, and he had all
Yes.
that. He had this huge, They had
Yeah.
a whole thing set up. That's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And I think I was on my way out, and I saw you kind of close to the door, and I hadn't spoken to you since I heard the news that Low Res was closing.
Right.
And I remember thinking, well, the kind of way it hit me was like, okay, it's like talking to somebody who just had like maybe a loss in their life, or maybe they've come down with an illness or something, but you haven't seen them, and it's like, I don't know, what do I say? Do I just say hi, good to see you, and then leave? And I decided to say, hey, I'm really sad to hear it, and you were really, I don't know. You just spoke so wonderfully and heartfelt, and I was on my way out, and I ended up, I think, talking to you for like 5 or 10 minutes, just because.
Because you could tell I needed it.
No, I think I told you right before we started the show that like I needed it.
Yeah.
And I said, you're not alone. There's a lot of people who are going through this and feeling this, and I was talking to Mike Shalau about the conversation, and I was like, I think this is something that people would want to hear. One, the beer enthusiasts who listen to the show, and then there's also a lot of industry who listen to this show as well. Mm-hmm. And it's like this thing that you just like, you don't hear about it or talk about it, or you read about it, and then it's just like, it's gone.
Yep.
And you don't hear about it until that happens, Sure. And
then life moves on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's definitely a conversation that I remember. It's probably a conversation I will always remember. It was just really meaningful to me, and I just wanted to. So I asked you, and you were awesome and grateful to come on the show and talk about something that I would think a lot of people would not be comfortable talking about. And even if you're not comfortable about it, you're still doing it, and I appreciate it.
I'm a little bit nervous.
Yeah, and I understand.
And a podcast is a little bit different to me. So
Yeah.
But yeah.
But anyway, so that's kind of the reason, the primary reason for having you on. But I wanted to kind of start from the beginning and just, could you talk a little bit about Low Res and like I'd like to hear about it in your words.
Yeah. So to start, I want to touch on when we bumped into each other at Delilah's. Oh, incidentally, as I was kind of getting my shit together to.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Does that get cut?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to understand like how this all
on the
works.
radio it'll get cut, but then it'll go out on the podcast.
Okay. Because I might swear when I'm making a really important point. You know
Totally
what I mean?
fine.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, so as I was kind of getting my shit together to wrap up, to get dinner with my partner, I knew I was going to be not far from Delilah's, coming up here to see you just now. And so I texted Mike Miller because I didn't want to be so bold, but I thought it might be kind of fun to roll in with Mike.
Oh, yeah. That would have been fun.
But I also, anyway, long story short, in Mike fashion, he's in Spain for 2 weeks. So,
Right.
anyway, but I didn't want to talk about bumping into each other at Delilah's last fall, and that was kind of my start of trying to embrace publicly what I went through, was going through, and I'm still kind of coming through. Because it has been really hard, and having you kind of break the ice in that way.
Oh, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, dude. All of a sudden, boom, Chris is a small business person. He gets and loves beer. This is a safe space. And not just between you and me, but Delilah's tends to be a very safe space.
Yeah.
And so I felt I had no problem, talking to you about it, even just briefly. And like I said, that's me kind of tipping my toe in the water and getting out there in the world and figuring out not only for my own sake, but then also how do I speak about it, to other people. So that was actually super helpful. Little trial run, seeing you there.
That's cool.
So low res. We started low res. We brewed our first batch of beer 2016, opened the tap room spring 2017, and it was focused on beer that we loved, which tended to be Belgian influenced, sour, and fruited beers kind of stuff. And number one, on the beer side. And then number two, an extremely community-focused, warm, accepting space. And, I think that, I think we did both of those very well. And I think we had an amazing team that helped us to get that ball rolling. And then a ton of beer fans that would come down to Pilsen. Most of the craft beer drinkers are on the north side. That's shifting a little bit, very slowly. So we would see a lot of people coming, to low res, and at the same time building a huge, very strong local and regulars base, which was typically tended to be like a third to a half of our tap room. Like I could walk into our tap room and I would know a third or half of their first names, or I would know I'm supposed to know their first name.
Yeah,
and I would fake it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
because I'm not that great
familiar
with names.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of our jam, and it was a blast.
Yeah. And you're wearing one of the, I think that's my favorite low res beer is your shirt. Is it Damon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never, I think, said it
Damon,
out
yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
Belgian Pale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Belgian strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Strong pale, one of those kind
Right, exactly.
Duvel-y kind of.
Golden in color, high alcohol, dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you and low res was around until when? How long was low res around?
Our last day of service was Labor Day 2023.
Okay. All right.
So.
And well, what was so?
What went down?
So what went down? Yeah. In your words, whatever that means to you, what went down?
Yeah, we year over year, we continued to grow, continued to build, continued to refine our beers. Our beers got better. We started to learn more about what our customers wanted. I didn't always listen closely enough to the people that wanted styles that I didn't want, which we can kind of get to a little bit.
Sure.
Which, is a little bit of hindsight, but I also saw the writing on the wall a little bit too late in the game. So yeah, we were doing well. Things were never wonderful. Excuse me. Things were never off the charts financially, but we continued to grow, continued to build, continued to push more beer out, bring more revenue in. And the pandemic hit, and we all know what that looked like from all our different points of view. And we all know what happened. And that was very dark, very scary. We lost, let's see if I remember the numbers. I think we lost 90% of our revenue overnight when state of Illinois shut down.
Yeah.
And we had just barely started to get into canning, believe it or not. When 2020 broke, we had just started to get serious about canning. So here's a brewery that's 90% draft, 10% cans, and then all of a sudden, all the retailers that buy kegs are locked up tight. Liquor stores are open.
Mm-hmm.
So, we did a fantastic job and a very scary job pushing cans out in the marketplace.
Yeah, and just to pause that for a moment, I do want everyone to just try to remember back to then. Let's go a little bit before that. Let's go 2019, because at the time, not just the prevailing knowledge, but the overwhelming consensus was that was the safer way to go, was to push on premise and draft, and
right.
And that was the safe way to go. Don't get don't get tied up with distribution and packaging and stuff like that.
Right.
And then this thing that certainly in 2019 nobody saw coming, and nobody saw it to that degree. So,
and even when we saw it coming, I feel like it was even when we literally saw it coming across the other continents, and all of a sudden on our West Coast and our East Coast, I think it was such an absurd concept that we couldn't get our brains around what this actually meant as it was creeping from the West Coast and the East Coast towards Chicago,
Yeah, I know.
Ugh.
I know. I mean, it was, I remember there was kind of this, it was bizarre. I mean, we've recounted it on here, and we were kind of going through it a little bit as it was happening. But yeah, I remember it was right after St. Patrick's Day, and I remember going out to some places because I was like, well, I've never not had a St. Patrick, or one of my last St. Patrick's Days. I haven't had one, in so many different. I think Patty Long's, R.I.P. to that place.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I went there, and I was talking to Pat, and we're like,
right.
We knew it was coming. We knew that there was going to be some kind of a shutdown or something was going to happen.
Right.
But even then, we didn't know.
Yeah. Is
How
it going to be
severe
a
it
couple
was.
of weeks?
Yeah.
Could you imagine a couple of weeks shutdown? Oh my God, it's going to be horrible.
Right.
That's what was going through my brain.
Right. Yeah, it was. I didn't even know what it meant. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of, for myself and for everyone else out there, just remember that doing 90% package. 90% draft was not seen as risky, and it might have been seen as risk averse. You kind of grow into package was the way of the thinking,
Exactly.
Establish yourself in people's minds at places where people go out, and then you can kind of work on kind of building out the distribution and filling that kind of pipeline behind that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you were saying, you saw it coming, and it was, and you were 90% draft, and you lost
We lost
it,
all that
in a
90%
day.
revenue. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And the whole team did a tremendous job of getting into cans and getting those cans on. So another challenge was, as a lot of people know, the buyers that buy draft are oftentimes very different than the buyers physically, very different places, different people that buy cans. So I didn't have,
We have 2 buyers here in one place.
right?
One
Exactly.
for package, one for draft. Yeah.
And we didn't have relationships with Binny's Whole Foods or any other smaller package store. So we had to, in the middle of a pandemic, build those relationships, beg them to buy our beer, and the beer that we were putting out, it was great beer. But because everything was locked down, these labels were labels that me and my business partner at the time were making in the middle of the night with Photoshop, and they look freaking ridiculous, because you couldn't get things turned around fast enough to do that. So we did a tremendous job of switching into building that book of business, getting those cans on the shelves that provided a glimmer of hope. And then once the government, then the government started to figure out PPP loans, which was a nice short-term lifeline. PPP money went really fast. I don't know if people remember, but that was money that was focused on. I thought it was actually done in a very clever way. There were loans that were given to businesses, and then if you could prove that money, I forget to what extent, a very high, like 95 to 100% went to keep employees on payroll. Then it was forgiven. Then it was turned into a grant, so that loan was forgiven. I thought that was clever as hell, actually. Believe it or not, the government can do things right once in a while. So that helped a little bit, and then after that came the EIDL or EID loans, which, if people aren't familiar with that, it's economic incentive disaster loan, I believe, and the reason they exist is for like hurricane disaster areas. They can quickly get money into businesses to start rebuilding. They opened that up for businesses to help them get through the pandemic, and we took out a massive loan there. And at the time, I knew it was a bit of a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And I was confident in the changes that we had made. I'd started to open up our focus on styles a little bit more to make, we started leaning more heavily into a hazy IPA we made called Apogee. That was a really fun beer. As well as a Pilsner that we made and started to diversify ourselves into styles. I had a plan to start rolling out our seltzer a little bit more broadly. And in 2021, I believe, we switched from going direct distribution to a traditional third-party distributor. So I feel like making all these changes, we were putting our chess pieces in the right place on the table. Now let's dump a pile of money on top of it, and when things quote unquote get back to normal, we're going to be set. Then we'll actually be in a really healthy spot. And that didn't happen. It didn't happen, I think, primarily because socializing changed quite a bit. And I think maybe permanently now. Particularly for Chicago. It's not quite that same way in New York and other major metropolitan areas. But, a lot of people do. They continue to do a lot of entertaining at home, having beers on the stoop, hanging out by the fire pit in the fall, which are all beautiful, wonderful things. But we didn't see the revenue come back through our tap room, which was which was usually about 50% of our overall revenue between all channels.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, the revenue didn't come back, and a loan, whether it's a huge government loan or a car loan,
Yeah.
you can't duck those things.
Mm-mm.
And if all of a sudden, money's tight, something has to happen.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. And then that's
what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike and I talk on the show quite a bit about how, from the outside, it looks like a light switch has gone off, but really, that's kind of the last. Well, it's not even the last step. It's just the one visible from the outside kind of step that happens, like the announcement or something like that. But that, it's really closer to like sinking in quicksand or something like that. It's like it's slow and scary and terrifying.
Oh God.
And that's kind of what we were talking about a little bit at Delilah's.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's something that I've talked about, in here to some degree. But like, going out of business and staying in business, you have people like Mike Miller who are rock stars and knock it out of the park and have houses in Spain, and
right.
I love them for it. And
Yeah.
I mean, like, no sour grapes at all, but there's, so many more who are, maybe the business equivalent of of closer to being like a paycheck to paycheck kind of situation, and it is it's something that I felt like I could see how that stuff happens, how close it is to happening, and I think that there's just not a lot of talk in our community about like things are tough now. Like things have changed.
Yeah.
And there's talk about, well, stuff's going to shake out, and those that are left, and it's like, well, yeah, but like what you're saying, like what about those that aren't
right
left?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to talk a little bit about, if you're comfortable with it, just talk about like what it's been like, or what it was like maybe for you at the time.
Yeah.
Kind of making that decision and then kind of going public with that decision.
Yeah, it was lonely and goddamn terrifying, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Right?
There's I think Siebel probably should have a short course on how to wrap up a financially defunct brewery.
Yeah.
And I'd have a lot to contribute. I would now. I've learned. Talk about a crash course. So, and so there's a huge kind of operational and financial component when you have a certain amount of money in the bank and that you're lighting whatever 15% of that on fire every month in the middle of the tap room. It just goes away. Like it is imminent, So what the fuck do you do?
Right.
There's that aspect. And then there's the emotional aspect, and for better or for worse, I was low res and low res was me. And
I'm sure it's like the ego hit and the embarrassment and I'm talking about things that I think about,
Oh my, you're terrified, you're embarrassed, I've got investors I got to talk to, everybody from explaining it to my mom to explaining it to investors. I don't say my partner, my life partner, because she kind of knew everything every step of the way, right? But so long story short, and I tried my best to put this out into the open, starting with, actually I think only solely with the Illinois Craft Beer Guild, the email list that goes around. And when I went public, I was like, hey, this is what Low Res is doing. This is why. It's terrifying as hell. If anybody feels like they might be in a similar situation, text me, call me, email me. We can get a beer. We can talk about life. We can look at financial spreadsheets. Just talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Because it is freaking lonely.
You mentioned something similar to that, not specifically that when we were talking, and I think that also was one of the reasons I thought that it was just like a worthwhile conversation to have, just to let other people know that there's other people who that you don't have to keep it all to yourself. And without naming names or anything like that, did anyone reach out to you? Have you talked to anyone about it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I talked to I think two that one I'd never heard of the brewery. It was somebody downstate, frankly.
Okay.
Because the guild covers the whole state, obviously.
Yeah.
And another person, I knew the brewery, never talked to that person before, and then somebody actually I'm close to.
Wow.
And that was
probably...
probably...
that's the whole spectrum right there.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah. Right.
And I spent probably 2 weeks ago, I probably traded texts I probably had 15 texts in one night with somebody else that is in a similar situation, doesn't really know what to do. Mm-hmm. So, and, the prescription that I created for myself was, first of all, you got to figure out what your burn rate is. And how do you slow that burn rate? How much money are you losing a month? How do you slow that down for the sake of controlling this crash landing?
Yeah.
And then what you do is you got to set aside money for an attorney. Mm-hmm. It sounds shitty, but this is probably one of the most important things you need to pay an attorney for, is to help you understand what your options are. Number 3, find somebody that understands spreadsheets at least as good as you, hopefully a lot better, and hopefully not part of the business. Mm-hmm. They don't have to be in the craft beer world. They don't have to really understand. One of my very good friends is a mezzanine finance lender. So, he does a lot of private equity, and he's one of the super nice guys of the evil world. So he doesn't really understand the business, but
he gets spreadsheets.
Yes.
P&Ls.
He gets how businesses work from a financial perspective. And I printed out spreadsheets, and we sat in back of Monk's Pub downtown, one of my favorite places on the planet.
Yep.
And very quietly whispered about these spreadsheets. And so that was my realization point. His name is Charlie, talking to Charlie. I found an attorney through a friend of a friend. And then, you need to figure out what's best for you, whether what's best for the business, what's best for you, what's best for the investors, what's best for the employees. Mm-hmm. And then you got to prioritize those things.
Yeah.
And what Low Res ended up doing was, it was very important to me the order in which we did it was, I had a couple huge conversations with investors, explained what was going on, what the ramifications were for them. And this is all, with attorney guidance as well. And then I had a private meeting with a couple of key employees to bring them into the fold. And then I had, probably 2 days later, I had an all-employee meeting. And I told them, basically they have 30 days notice. And I encouraged all of them to get a new job as soon as they can and leave. There's nothing you can do to help this situation, so I want to help you get out of here as quickly as you can. And then 30 days from there is when we made the public announcement. And I think it was maybe 2 weeks after 2 weeks after that was Labor Day when we closed the doors for good.
Okay. Wow.
So, and just to kind of recap a little bit of that, for me, the most important thing was from a fiduciary perspective, I wanted to make sure we're all in line, all the investors, which included myself as an investor.
Yeah.
As well as our external investors. And then number two, I was thinking really intently on how do I do this? How do I do this as appropriately as I can with the employees who helped make this thing real, who helped breathe life into low res?
Yeah.
So, as opposed to, we all have heard stories about restaurants where employees show up and the doors are chained shut. So that was not what I wanted to do.
Kind of the foxtrot thing where it's just
Right.
You show up and it's like, you're gone. But then it's not over after that, right?
No,
after you close, it's not over, right? It's not like you just walk into in a recruiter's office and say, well, now I want to learn about bread baking or something.
No, and keep in mind that the reason that you have to lock the doors is because you can't pay your bills, right? So, so that's a whole nother ball of wax.
And probably you have to lock your doors, and you're probably not allowed to touch a whole lot, I would imagine, because
yeah, that's actually very true. Anything of value, anything of material value, tchotchkes and stuff like that doesn't apply, right? As my attorney put it to me was, if it looks like it's gone, you have to leave it there, because that is the property of the debt owners, the banks, whether it's the federal government EIDL or whether it's a bank that's lending you money, that's their collateral, right? So what we did was, and I'm probably going to intentionally skirt some of these numbers here.
And we talked about this
different
beforehand.
reasons.
There might be some things that,
Right. And so what we did was, it's not super uncommon. In fact, it's more common in the restaurant world, where you sell all of your assets, leave them in place, and you sell them to a new business owner who then comes in and fires up the restaurant in a new concept. And in our case, they fire up this brewery and tap room in a new concept.
Is that what's there now?
Right.
Oh,
so there's a new brewery in there now.
What's the brewery?
It's called Monochrome.
Okay.
And it just so happened that, and something else I want to put out there is, I was shocked in a positive way at, when I made a public announcement, I had a very short list of potential buyers. I shouldn't say investors, because we weren't investable at that point. From a financial perspective, there's you could not invest in low res. Yeah. Which we can kind of go down that path, but there's a lot of nerdery involved. But I had 6 interested buyers before I even got through my list of calling out to the people I thought might be interested buyers. And you know how those kind of, if you're selling a car and 6 people are interested, the first 3 go away. The next 3, 1 offer is stupid, and then 2 offers are actually pretty darn good. Yeah. So, and in a nutshell, so there were 2 offers that were 2 different fantastic parties. And we ended up, Low Res ended up selling all our assets to one of our regulars, Enrique Riviera, who now is one of the founders of Monochrome. Monochrome Brewery in Pilsen.
Interesting.
So he's a regular. He's somebody that I still consider to be a good friend. Everything's a little bit weirder right now, but my life is very weird right now. Yeah. So anyway, back to the point at hand. The process we went through was, valuing those assets and then coming to an agreement with his group, selling those assets, leaving them in place, and then using that money to pay down our debt obligation to the banks and or the federal government.
Right. Okay. All right. So you were still able to sell that stuff, I guess, with the banks.
Right.
Okay, I would assume.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The bank does not want to take possession of a forklift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's a bank going to do with a forklift, right? Other than haul around bales of money, maybe.
Right. Keep their suspenders held up. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
so their pants don't fall
Bring in
down.
my cigars.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, banks don't want to take possession of that stuff. They want you to liquidate it. They want you to spend the time and liquidate it. You have to convince them that it is fair market value, which you're selling those things for. They have to approve it. And then they got to see the money hit your account and immediately leave your account and go into their account.
Right.
So,
And, I mean, do you have any idea how long this process is going to draw out for you? Forever?
Even more than ever, I do not pick up phone calls that don't have a name attached to them that I know.
Right.
I don't respond to any texts that I don't recognize. Yeah, it's been really hard.
Yeah.
Financially, I'm starting over, and part of the not drinking and just kind of resetting me, Dave Dahl, is trying to be okay with not knowing if there's another shoe that's going to drop or not.
Yeah.
I can't control everything,
Right.
but I can work hard at my new job at Moody Tongue. I can try to be the best partner I can be to my girlfriend Christy and her 2 kids, and make my dog happy.
Right.
So
Well, let me just say, for me personally, I mean, one of the things that you and I talked about, we were joking about it a little bit, was, what time in the middle of the night do you wake up? I'm like, I'm a 4 a.m. I'm a 4 a.m. guy. And you're like, I was like a 3:30 guy.
that's exactly right. I was 3:30.
Yeah. But I was, so, and mine has changed a little bit since then. Now I'm like a 2 and a 4. But yeah, so like it is this thing where, like these stresses, like they just come to you in the middle of the night when everything is, you've got nothing to kind of push it down with anymore, and they kind of bubble up. And when's the other shoe going to drop is like the thing that I am just like, terrified of. I don't know if it's reasonable, but,
Right.
I feel like I'm like scarred from like when I was opening and things were tough and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I remember, walking down the street with my wife from Harvest Time Foods. I remember the block I was on and getting a call and being like, the business account's negative, but payroll's already run. It's going to hit, tomorrow.
God.
Like
That's the worst of
you know
the
what I'm saying?
worst. Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
I do know.
And like I still remember like how I felt at that time.
Yeah.
And like, okay, what do I do? Okay, hold on. I have to get home first. I'm carrying groceries in my hand. I'm
Right.
walking down Lawrence Avenue, and like those are the things that I just am like utterly terrified of, and things that I never, even when I was contemplating, like when opening a business, the business might fail. That thought, and so many things that I read where they were like, it's going to be stressful or it's going to be hard and this and that. Like, I have so many times looked back and been like, that's what they meant by this. I'm experiencing it now. But until you experience it, like reading it meant nothing.
Yeah.
You know, in like a starting a business book or
Right.
how to So like, and those are the things that are just like. And I think through it. I think I like play it out in my mind. It's like, oh my gosh, like some of the time, like if I'm stressed out, I'm like, I don't even care. I don't care. And other times, I'm like, I'd be humiliated. I'd be this, and kind of like making yourself, frankly, I think more important than you really are. Like thinking that it's going to be a bigger deal to, I think, everybody else, and it really is. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just talking for myself.
Yeah.
And so like in a way, I don't want to say it was in any way. Well, I don't know what calling it therapeutic would be. It wasn't therapeutic because it certainly didn't help. I don't feel any better having talked to you. But I feel like maybe heard or something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And, my girlfriend's sister-in-law, she had a business in Dallas, completely separate. She did drug and alcohol counseling, right? So radically different. She closed her business down. Their world changed because of COVID too. There was no more in-person counseling sessions. I mean, we all know, right? Like whether it's a routine doctor appointment or therapy appointment or whatever, it's all virtual. They weren't set up for that. So anyway, long story short, they shut down. I bring that up because she and I have had so many conversations. Unless you have started a business, I don't care what kind of business it is, you have no idea what that feeling of abject terror is, that something is going to happen. Something terrible, terrifying is going to happen. Right. And, and that's part of what makes it feel like, so that itself is unique from a fellow small business owner. And then going through the process of closing that down is, that's rarefied air, or what's the negative of that? What's word?
Yeah, right.
Those are the depths of hell.
Right.
And I told myself, and
so it wasn't relief. It wasn't relief just to like.
Oh God.
Well, it's done now. I mean, the decision's been made, and I don't have to worry about it happening. It's happened.
Well, it's no. There was no moment of relief.
Yeah.
No. But those were very dark days when I went through that process of figuring out what I had to figure out.
Oh my God.
And I told myself,
it's like planning your own funeral.
It is. It literally is. And what I told myself is, if you're going to get out of this in any way sane, you got to figure out how to fucking get out of this, right? Put your big boy pants on and get this shit figured out. You've got a lot of people. You've got a couple handful of people that work for you. Mm-hmm. You've got investors. You got to figure this out. You can't just lock the doors and run away.
Right. Like
life doesn't work that way.
Go into the fetal position and just be like, stick your head in the sand and be like, I'm not dealing with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I think there is a period of time where you do have to do that. Allow yourself to wallow. And then you got to go, all right, this shit's not going to figure itself out. No one's going to figure it out for me. There is no instruction manual. There's no instruction manual for starting a business, let alone closing a failing business.
Right.
And so that's what I focused on for my own sanity, and to try to make things as transparent as possible to the employees, investors, and our community of fans and regulars and locals. And back to your point about, you're right, 3:30 every morning. If I was lucky, I'd be back asleep at 4:15. Sometimes I wouldn't go back to sleep. Thankfully, that doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, that's good.
So now, is it relief? No, I sleep better. Mm-hmm. I still I still miss low res. My God, and I miss, I still
Well, of
miss
course.
I still miss my old dog Shotzi horribly.
Right.
She's been dead for 4 years now.
Right.
But,
Right.
So, but no. So it's and I'm I'm in a much healthier space because I think I was pretty destructive on myself towards the bitter end there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see a lot of people kind of going that route and just what if and if only and if only I wasn't such an asshole and an idiot and incompetent.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying,
yeah.
I'm not, right.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you think about all the, I can't believe it. I failed. And
Other people do
and
it.
I did
Right.
fail.
Right.
I succeeded in creating something amazing.
Yeah.
And I really hope, it left a mark for a while with some people. But I also failed, and I'm okay saying that. And yeah, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? And I pretty much have those things figured out, and what I would have done differently. Would I be sitting here talking about something differently if I would have done those things? Who the hell knows?
Who the hell knows?
But I can't wake up at 3:30 thinking about that.
Right. right. Yeah. I know. Yeah, it's in a way, it's I was and continue to be incredibly impressed with the openness with which you have talked about it, because I mean, let's be real. I'm talking about myself personally, and just like the struggles of grinding out a business,
Yeah.
and I know that there's so many people who must feel like that, but I think you're one of the first people that I talked to who I was like, do you do this? You do that too? Oh, you do wake up at 4. Oh, for you it's 3:30. Oh, okay. And so it's not just me, and
Right.
I remember, I used to consider myself like a totally laid back person, and I was talking to I'll just say I was talking to my therapist, and I was like, that person's not. I'm not that person anymore, and that sucks. But there's other things that I love about being a business owner, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it no matter what happened. Well, I'm not gonna say no matter what happens, but I don't see me wanting to change that. So I don't want people listening to think that it's just this pity party necessarily. But yeah, I mean it does change you, and everybody sees these they see these rocketing successes, and also the perceptions that people want to put out there, I think, as well. But even, I mean, we were having some of our best years ever during COVID because I had the bottle shop, and then I was also doing a whole bunch of, I found a whole corporate avenue that just, I got lucky and I found a whole new...
corporate beer tastings.
Yes.
And yeah. Miller was doing that with Delilah's too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we were doing tons and tons of them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And even then, I was talking to my therapist about the other shoe's going to drop, the other shoe's going to drop, the other shoe's going to drop. And this was at the best financial years ever.
Yeah.
And then, after COVID, that stuff went away. And I was like, see, I told you. Hey, look who it is. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but other than to say, I personally really, it meant a lot to me. That little 5-10 minute conversation, was very helpful to me. So
Oh, wow.
I'm hoping to kind of pass that on a little bit to the people listening. So
Yeah, well, this is turning quite a bro hug.
yeah.
No,
Right.
I
Mike
totally feel the
Chilau
exact
just
same
showed
way.
up. Yeah,
What's
we don't
going
have
on, Mike?
we don't have a mic for him though,
Good to
so
see you.
he's gonna have to be a peanut gallery kind of guy. I'm sorry, you were saying?
No, I was just saying, yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to something I touched on. I want to bring up again is we all got to talk, whether it's to your therapist or to somebody that you do business with, like you and I did, or, just somebody that you trust that can be a sound. Like, we just got to talk shit out, man.
Yeah.
Whether it's about your cratering business, in my case, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I also see a therapist and for many years. And that's helped me tremendously as I kind of come out of this who is Dave without low-res phase,
right?
Which is really effing weird.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So, that's the new thing I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I like, when I go through these like morbid daydreams or night dreams or whatever, I'm like, yeah, what the hell? I'm not marketable. I'm not good. I can't do this. This is who I am. And if I don't do this, then what? Then what am I? That sort of stuff. Well, why don't let's take a little bit of a break. I'm going to fill up my glass, and then we'll come back with more of the podcast.
Cool.
We're back with the Beer Temple podcast. This is Chris Quinn. I am joined by Dave Dahl, and lo and behold, look who decided to show up.
I made it.
Yeah, what's up?
Someone's got to work.
Yeah. I was doing an event that I thought was going to run later, and I was like, got it a little early. I was like, hey, I can come sit in the second half.
Was Serge supposed to help you? Is that why he's in the uniform? You guys are wearing the same
We're
mustard
wearing the
yellow
same
shirt.
shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt I'm not embarrassed to wear the Is What stuff, but it seems lame. When you're doing an event, though, you kind of have to be.
Yeah, I think so.
And we were doing an event at a restaurant where like they were serving our beer, and people have no idea who I am. It's not like we're at like an event where I'm pouring from a jockey box. So
You're
obviously
behind
I'm
the
the
bar.
guy,
Right?
So it made a lot of sense. Like when I was walking up to people, and they would be like, "Okay, I
Who's
know
this guy
why you're
talking to me?"
invading my space."
Exactly.
Stop talking to me.
Like, you already bought the beer, sucker. Ha, bye. Enjoy your 3.2% beer, loser.
Love it.
It's the energy I'm bringing into the.
Yeah, exactly. Loser.
What were you guys talking about?
Deep
We're
dark
talking
stuff.
about this beer.
I don't know anything about that.
This beer that I have here. It seems to be a bit of a special beer. That's in my hand here. It has a label. Can you tell me anything about the beer? Do you happen to know anything about the beer, Dave?
I do.
What can you tell me about it?
It has a very minimalist label. This was the last beer that we canned. So let me back up. We for stout season that began in 2022, we made a Belgian Imperial Stout, which is something I'd always wanted to do, and we formulated it. It was a riff on another Imperial Stout that we did that I thought could be more fun. So this is a Belgian Imperial Stout, and it happens to be a bourbon barrel-aged version. The Belgian Stout is called Phantasma. We call this simply BA Phantasma. It's about 11%. Bourbon barrels from CH Distillery. My good buddies there hooked us up with that. It's I wasn't able to quite get the carbonation level to where I wanted it to be as impending doom was happening. F it. I have to get this beer in cans because I need to drink this beer for a long period of time.
Yeah. It tastes great, man.
So
thank you for bringing.
So cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
There we are. Very nice. Thank you.
Melodious clinking.
Really nice. Great beer. And you know what? It reminds me of a beer like when you pull barrel-aged beer like straight from the barrel.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. So I don't think in this particular style it really detracts from it at all, and it kind of is living out the story that you just said. You know, this beer has to get made.
Right.
This beer has to get into the package, and
This beer's not going down the drain.
yeah, right, exactly. So yeah,
Nice
so thank you.
bitterness to it too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really well made beer.
it's really nice.
Excellent
Well,
job.
yeah, thank you for that. We have some letters. Is it okay if I maybe
You
bring
asking
up,
me?
lighten the moods just slightly? Because so we have letters and electronic letters. This is what we all have, electronic letters this week.
Electronic letters?
Electronic letters.
It's a
E-letters.
newfangled way.
Yeah, they send it via email.
I think it's Pony. Oh,
Yeah.
email, not Pony Express.
Yeah, they send e-letters via email.
Electric horses.
Right? Isn't that how it works? So this comes from, and remember, however you sign your e-letters is how I will refer to you, or your handwritten letters, typed letters, however you want to do it. So this is
Ransom
from
notes.
Papa Peasy, the King of Prussia, wrote this one. So he says,
King of Pennsylvania.
yeah, to teams Y, Stefan, and Sierra Nevada. So this is from the drafting.
Which one am I? Which one am I?
I think your team's Sierra Nevada.
All right, let's go.
I think. I don't know.
Wait,
I
wait,
write
this-
to you as I currently sip on a Forest and Maine Best Bitter, which I know makes you jealous. Yes, it does. We're drinking some pretty good beer, too. I was late to the game and only started listening recently, but I've been crushing episodes faster than a sixer of day-old Headhunter would go down at BT Studios. It has been extremely refreshing to find a podcast that is the perfect blend of deep, knowledgeable craft beer passion and also lighthearted humor and wit, pun intended. Easily 3.6 bottle caps. Wow, that's a full bottle
that's
cap
a
more
rocker,
than we
dude.
usually get. Yeah, we're a 2.5 bottle cap.
That's
type-
good for
type
us.
show. Yeah. I was first introduced to you guys through the Instagram blind tasting and Is It Dead videos series, which inspired me to start doing similar challenges with my buddy using beer from my cellar. At the very bottom is a QR code of my beer list, and I give you blessing to select the beers that my buddy has to try and blindly identify.
Give us homework.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Yeah, thanks. That's what we need. Of note, you should do more of those videos. I was just thinking today, I almost did another one of those today, but then I decided to sit in a room with no windows on one of the most beautiful days of the year for 6 straight hours.
And have a panic attack.
That's what I did. I didn't have a panic attack, but I was sitting looking at a friggin' spreadsheet for 6 hours.
Oh,
and it was-
God. That'll melt your
maybe
brain.
worse
yeah,
then.
it's- yeah. As a resident of Philly suburbs, I wanted to do a lightning round of this or that with the theme of Southeast PA beers versus rest of USA.
Whoa.
Without thinking too hard, I want each of you to give your initial knee-jerk reaction to which beer is better, however you may interpret that. If you do not know any of the beers, well, shame on you. List is below. Thanks for taking my letter, and go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. All right. Yours truly, 3 letters, 1 name, JPZ, Papa Peasy, the King of Prussia.
So he said
Okay.
3 letters, 1 name, and then gave 6 names?
I guess. JPZ, I guess.
All right, we'll allow it.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's no ROBTOD, but
Okay. Trogs. So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
It's this or that. We can all
Okay.
go, and if you don't know them, then you just have
this
to.
is really a Philly versus everyone style
I guess so.
letter.
Southeastern PA. Yeah, okay. Trogs, Nimble Giant, or Dogfish Head, 90 Minute.
I've never had Nimble Giant, so 90 minute.
All right, 90 Minute for you. Dave?
A nimble giant sounds entertaining to me.
All right, I'm going 90 Minute just because I'm old.
Have you had a Nimble Giant?
I don't know.
I have not.
No,
Never
I've had a
heard
bunch
it,
of
but-
Trogs, but I don't know
All
if
right,
I've
so
had Nimble
Do we have a
Giant.
shame bell on the soundboard?
Yeah,
He
I
said
mean,
we have to
come on.
shame ourselves.
Don't worry about it.
Gave us homework and then shamed us.
Papa Peasy is okay with this. Trust me. I feel like I know him.
You do know
Victory Dirt Wolf or Half Acre Navaja. So those are two double IPAs. Dirt Wolf, I believe, is a Mosaic double IPA, I believe. One of the first Mosaic beers. Half Acre Navaja, also a double IPA. This is a tough one. I think I'm going Dirt Wolf. I haven't had it in forever, but I just remember I have fond memories of that beer. So I'm going Victory Dirt Wolf for that one.
Yeah, can I go neither? I'm definitely not a
Ooh.
big ABV double IPA guy at this point in my life.
Jeez, wow.
But then I have to go Navaja because I've only had someone I've had.
All right,
Yeah.
fine. All right, Navaja.
Same.
The
And
can,
Wire-
I guarantee the
great.
can is cooler.
Weyerbacher, Blithering Idiot, or Sierra Nevada Bigfoot. I've had both of these.
Me too.
Bigfoot, baby.
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot all the way.
Yeah, I used to have a vertical Bigfoot back when I was like that.
The next one is Conshohocken Brewing ESB or Fuller's ESB. I don't know if I've ever had Conshohocken Brewing ESB, but come on.
Fuller's.
I mean,
Our numbers in the south of eastern Pennsylvania area are gonna tank after this episode.
No, I mean, come on. I think even Conshohocken Brewing ESB, even Conshohocken Brewing would say, fine, yeah, no. Fuller's.
Sure.
I mean, they are the ESB, right?
Have you ever had the Conshohocken though?
I don't know, but I think the ESB is like
Just-
I don't know if it's like proprietary, but it's
Yeah.
like I know other English breweries don't use really ESB in England
for legal
because
reasons.
yeah, because
Really?
it's Fuller's beer. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know. Like a patent
I
trademark. kind of
think
thing,
so. I
or-
think it's
or respect?
something like that. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Tired Hands, Saison Hands, or Amagang Hennepin. Those are two good ones. I think I'm going to have to go. I haven't had Saison Hands in forever. If we're going when Tired Hands first opened,
Yeah.
I'm going
Saison Hands.
Saison Hands
That was
for
a
that
good
one.
beer.
That was a great beer. Amagang Hennepin is
I haven't had one
absolute
forever.
I
though.
haven't had it in forever.
I haven't had Hennepin forever either, and I remember distinctly loving that beer.
Me too.
I'm going to put you down for Hennepin, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay.
We down for a blend of both.
Yards. I mean, these are all like Yards Brewing Pale Ale or Dave's Pale Ale.
Yards probably because they're not owned by
Okay.
Wait, Dave's or Dale's?
Dale's.
Oh yeah, Yards because they're not owned by an energy drink company.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'll go Yards as well. Why not? I'll go Yard.
Yeah, go Yard.
Hey, if that's not their saying, if that's not their slogan, at least during the summer,
Yeah,
it should be.
go Schwarber on
Go,
it.
go Yard. Yeah. Schwarbomb. Phillies are in town. They're playing the
Best
the
team,
Cubs.
best record in baseball right now, right?
Yeah, except they don't have Schwarbomb or Harper
Harper.
or Real Muto. So
During
that'll be
the
close.
break,
Are those guys important?
During the break, I checked the score. Cubs were down in the 8th inning. I think it was 6-1. They were down,
That sounds right.
and the Sox lost by 1.
Oh,
If
well,
you care.
Yeah,
Go Phils. Go fighting.
the Yankees.
Yeah, come on. Levante Brewing Bira de Levante Pilsner. Never heard of it.
now.
Sorry, Papa Peasy. Or Rev Pills. Going Rev Pills.
Rev
I think
Pils.
Rev Pills
Yeah.
is great. I mean, it's not really a pills, but Rev
Uh-huh.
Pills.
It's like an Italian pills.
Monk's Cafe or the Beer Temple. You son of a
Beer-
gun, Papa Peasy.
Beer Temple.
I gotta go Monk's Cafe. Yeah, Monk's Cafe.
Talk about the beers that you've made or the place.
Oh, well, I think I
because
would
I was
lose
going
either.
Metho Dust.
I would. Oh, that's true. I mean, he has some like one-off Cantillon blends that they've done
Yeah.
that are pretty amazing.
I've been digging through we've been saving like cases of everything with Britannomyces or mixed culture since we opened when we
You
opened
have
the tap
Metho
room.
Dust?
I haven't found it. It's got to
Oh.
be somewhere in there, but I don't know if we have it.
The world's first citrus style ale.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was it. That was the this or that with Papa Peasy. I encourage other people to send us such letters.
Yeah.
And we'll do this or that. It can be with anything.
Yeah.
It can be bars, beers.
Uh-huh.
You know.
maybe try to
anything.
make them a little bit more like things that we might have had. Have you had these southeastern Pennsylvania beers? It was
Right.
fun, but I haven't had any.
I mean, Trogs, Victory, Weibacher, Tired Hands, Yards, and Monks. Those are all pretty,
Almost
well known.
None of those get distributed.
No,
here,
they
though.
don't. But
Send us the beers.
we're professionals, Mike.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Plus,
guess
I
so.
I lived out there and I go out there quite a bit, so I probably have.
Yeah, you probably had all of them.
I probably had most. I don't know if I have not had the Levante Brewing Birra di Levante. Sounds like it's an Italian pils. to
Sounds
me.
exciting.
Yeah, it does. It's very romantic. Okay, so we have another letter.
Another
Electronic letter, yeah. This comes from Steve. He doesn't have all these names.
What's he the king of?
He's just
one. King of Steve.
fan of the show. He just says, sincerely, Steve, fan of the show.
Ah, right on.
But here we go. The subject is Voodoo Collapse. This is a little long, but I'll see how fast I can get through it. Hello, gentlemen. Recently, I was listening to the pod. Pretty sure it was the latest one. Well, if you know anything about how long it takes me to get to these letters, you'll know
It was the
that
latest one for Steve.
it was mentioned that Voodoo Ranger beers had tanked to a degree. Oh, that wasn't that long ago, actually.
Tanked?
So yeah, they had. You weren't on that show. It was
okay.
with Doug.
Gotcha, my bad.
So I'm in my local mega chain supermarket, and for the first time in a long time, I actually looked at the Voodoo Ranger beer. Oh, and what I guess I should say, what Steve is referring to is there was some whatever IRI is now calling themselves. They were talking about some of the brands that saw the biggest drops, and I think like 4 or 5 of them were in the Voodoo Ranger series,
Well,
down 19, 15%,
When
20%.
you're the biggest one, that's bound to happen, right? Your numbers, your swings are bigger.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but sure. Okay. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context.
Me either.
Yeah. I actually, first time in a long time, I looked at Voodoo Ranger and OMG. Have you seen the branding on these things? It is far and away the cheapest, crappiest looking branding you can imagine. Gone is the cool, authentic looking art. In its place is stunningly cheap, kid level images and type that might please a 5-year-old, and I'm not even sure it reaches that lofty standard.
Wait, but I'm going to throw a flag on the cool, authentic art to begin with.
I think he's talking about the New Belgium stuff, like the blue
okay.
paddle
Yeah, I don't remember
and
the
the
way
fat
in,
tire.
If he's talking about Voodoo Ranger having cool and authentic art,
I think he's talking
I
about
don't
New
remember those
Belgium.
days.
yeah, okay.
New Belgium.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
That's
accepted.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, sorry, keep going. With the
We'll assume that's what he meant.
yeah, sure.
Okay. So if Voodoo Ranger is dropping, maybe this is the reason. Previously, I could have been tempted. I mean, it had a cool look in the past. Now it's maybe. Now it's like the art director's past experience was at a really low-end toy company, or possibly in an effort to save money, they just plugged in some words to an AI image generator and said, "What the hell? It's fine." So maybe the Voodoo Ranger has itself also gotten crappier or more cartoonish or something.
I mean, should we talk about the group chat that you, Serge, and I have, and the the video that we were laughing at?
Let's finish it because he goes,
okay,
and then we'll
sorry.
talk about it.
I wasn't
But
sure.
it's
I thought the
really,
letter was over.
but really, it's not fine. It's crap. It absolutely defines what shitty, overglossed, lifeless corporate graphics are. Did I say repellent? This branding could scare off someone who'd never had beer before and will never after seeing that. It could scare small children, and not because of the skeleton.
This is our kind of guy.
Yeah. No, what would be what would be terrifying, in fact, what is terrifying is that they took a skeleton already pretty lifeless and then put the most ridiculous and again cheapest looking sunglasses on it to add yet another layer of lifelessness. And again, let's not forget the blend of bland generic art for still more lifelessness. Did I say lifeless? Can we all agree that whatever humanity might previously had been in the branding has been thoroughly and completely and permanently killed off? This dude does not like Voodoo Ranger branding.
He's passionate about
I
it.
know.
I like it.
And did I mention that one version is called Juice Force? Do I need to say more about that? Has anyone on the marketing team ever even had a beer before? Do they like beer? Do they know any beer drinkers? In other news, Chris is always going on and on about my local beers, Trumer Pills, so I bought a 6-pack. And then that same guy, Chris, said Firestone Walker XBA rules, so I bought a 6 of that too. That guy, Chris, is seriously influential. I feel I was almost forced into acquiring more beer.
You wrote that
but
part.
I'll get through it. I'll make do, yeah. And I got both at the same mega chain supermarket, too. Weird. Sincerely, Steve, fan of the show. Thank you, Steve, for the kind letter. I'd never had a Voodoo Ranger, except in the first iteration when it first came out, and it was like an IPA, kind of. But then when it became like Juice Force and Tropic Force and whatever it was, I'd never had one until we did, maybe a month or two ago, we did a blind tasting. And I put one of those. We don't carry it here, so I had to go, and I was late to the show. And I couldn't say exactly why I was late, but it's because I was going around the different stores trying to find Juice Forces and or Voodoo Rangers.
I was going to do
like,
an all
this
tall
one.
boy thing for you too. Actually, I was going to do it's all 24-ounce cans you can get at the grocery store.
And I was stunned by that beer.
It was
It tasted like Hawaiian Punch.
mind-boggling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly like Hawaiian Punch. I mean, it was
terrible.
It tasted like it was for children. That's what it tasted like. Yeah.
And the art
I mean,
appears like
I didn't see it. It was a blind tasting. So I
took the can out at the end.
Oh, you
we
did?
said it. Yeah, it was.
I forgot that part.
But what's the
think
demographic they're going for?
probably 21 and 1 month
Right.
year olds.
They're going
Exactly.
for people
Who
that
are-
were drinking like 24-ounce cans of Hard Mike's lemonade, right? Like that's like they're replacing wine coolers and Hard Mike's lemonades now. Like that's what C-store craft beer is for the most part.
Yeah.
It's
Or
that.
energy drinks, alcoholic energy drinks type stuff.
Can't
like
do that
those,
anymore. That's illegal.
But those flavors, I'm saying.
Sure.
You know, like
right.
that's what it tastes like, a Gatorade or something like
right.
that.
And that was like one of the. 'Cause, I mean, we probably exist in like somewhat of a bubble of only drinking beers that are like pretty artisanally produced, and then that's one of the ones that's like you really comprehend how much people's palates have like migrated into the matrix of all the artificial flavorings, all the artificial sweeteners that have been added to stuff that like the American baseline of what things taste like is no longer tethered to what things that grow out of the ground taste like anymore.
Yeah, it's wild. There's a Instagram account that just in the past 2 days has like captured my attention enough that I've now had like 3 or 4 different times it's like come up like a different what do you call it, like video that's put out, and it's just somebody who works at Dunkin' Donuts making orders that have been put in through an app. They just show it. It's just the cup and this one that they had, and they put the sticker on it. It's like a real, unless they falsified, it, but they could have. But 18 sugars, 20 pumps of caramel swirl syrup,
Are you kidding me?
and then it's a glass full of ice, and then it's one, I guess it's an ounce, one thing. They push a button and it happens, of cream, and then there's maybe, I don't know, like 4 ounces of coffee. There's no room left. It's
Right.
insane. They have to shake the thing just to like get the coffee to go to the bottom to where all the granulated sugar is. 18 sugars, 20 caramel swirl. I mean, that is.
I'm getting sick to my stomach just thinking
Oh,
about that.
it was a solid 2 inches of just the syrup sitting on. I mean, it was banana. I have to send you this again. I was showing everybody at my house. I was like, "Oh my God, look at this!"
Everybody, look how disgusting this is.
Yeah, but it is kind of like. I mean, it is that same mentality. I think that gets Voodoo Ranger to be one of the top craft brands. It's craft, man. It's a top craft brand.
As you were saying, it's one of those things where I'm like, it's a completely different animal than whatever I'm doing or what you're doing.
No.
Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Or they're not the same customer base. It's not the same. It's like it's a folly to think you should be like, what are they doing? We should follow that. Like you should run in the opposite direction as fast as.
Which is why when Bart Watson of the BA says like that's one of like the areas of growth for breweries is like, you know, double IPAs and value IPAs and C-store placements. It's like, go get fucked, dude.
Yeah.
Like who? Like
no, it's not.
And
also,
even if it was just from a strict dollar standpoint, who is in a position? Which brewers are in a position to be like, you know what? Let's zag a little bit, guys, and start selling to 7-Elevens. We need to be with one of the top. We need to be either in the Bud or Miller House. Because nobody else can go there. It's like you can't self-distro to a 7-Eleven.
Liquor license to where our tap room is going to be is a 7-Eleven. I should go in there and see if they want to carry some
Get a placement.
$13 500 milliliter bottles.
Right. They'd be like, oh, you have to talk to the regional buyer.
I'm just going to start leaving them in there like how indie bands would at record stores sometimes.
It's like, we're one of the smaller buying groups for 7-Eleven. We only have
make a space on the rail. And just put it right there.
Yeah, right. With a little bundle.
It doesn't matter if it scans or not. Just put it there.
Yeah, just put it there.
Yeah, with a little a coupon for your tap room.
I mean, the BA has just completely left a position of any value to the majority of its members. There's 10,000 breweries, and 9,900 of them will never sniff a 7-Eleven. So when he was saying stuff like that, it's like, this, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like what? Like, and maybe that number is even high. Like it might be 9,950. Like are never going to get in a 7-Eleven.
Right.
And like and to attempt to do that would put you in such a precarious position. Like to be able to fulfill orders, like it's mind-boggling to think that's a thing that you would go up and present.
Yeah, I would be. I mean, I could see presumably a top 50 brewery not being able to do that. Like, just we can't fulfill that. We're a top 50 craft brewery. We cannot do it.
Right.
So who are you talking to, Bart? Anyway, that's me hating on something that I probably got a little bit wrong. But anyway.
Hey, that's
let's
the
talk about that
subtitle of the
Voodoo
store,
Ranger thing.
Right?
Let's hate a little bit.
Yeah, it's Hey Voodoo Ranger.
What was the thing? You sent it, right? Or did you send it? Did Serge send it?
Serge
sent it. Okay. I foolishly asked the person who does not exist if he sent it.
Right. I sent it then.
Yes.
He gave a thumbs up.
Yeah. So it was a video. It was an ad. Oh, no. It was on the LinkedIn profile of the marketing director for Voodoo Ranger New Belgium, right?
We're deep in it. We're really deep in it.
And it was a video. It was a cartoon. Ad. It was a cartoon. It was like, it reminded me of those old like Flash cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like E-Bombs World or like Homestar
Runner.
Yeah.
It was like a Homestar Runner. And it was the Voodoo Ranger dude. He was playing blackjack. And
Sorry.
No, he was playing Texas Hold'em. And they turned over 3 aces. And he looked at his hand, and he had a 2, and somehow a joker had gotten in there. So he had literally a worthless hand.
Yeah, he brought his own card.
And he goes all in, loses, because someone else has like an ace or something like that, and then shrugs, and then the the waiter, the cocktail waiter comes around and like, you know how you get free beers when you when you're gambling, and he takes a Voodoo Ranger and shrugs it off. And the thing is, like, some people like gamble for the thrill of it. Some people gamble to win money, but Voodoo Ranger drinkers just gamble for the free beer. That was it.
So let's break down the symbolism and meaning behind that, right? If you drink Voodoo Ranger, you're an alcoholic because you are doing it just to get free Voodoo Rangers, and you're a dumb
You're a loser and an idiot.
Oh my god!
A dumb loser alcoholic is the only person who's drinking this thing.
Yeah.
Like, what was that supposed to be?
I don't
Who's
know.
that supposed to attract?
I was going to say, but their marketing department it feels that it appeals to some demographic. Apparently
they probably spent more money getting that ad made than I'm going to spend to open
Right.
the entire brewery.
Probably more than you spend on your boiler.
Yeah, man. Hey, well,
Yeah, so I guess you're probably right about that.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
and this guy put it on his LinkedIn
Liked
page
it enough to put it
as
in.
an example of how good he is at his
marketing.
job.
At marketing. Yeah.
What is going? How do people get into these positions?
You got to be on LinkedIn.
I can.
Yeah, exactly.
that's a
Step
great
one,
point.
get on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Pants.
Oh, for
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But like, man, how do you look at that and be like, nailed it?
If anyone out there works for New Belgium's marketing department, you can send us a letter at
Yeah,
insiders at craftbeertemple.com.
Tell us what we
and
got
let us
wrong.
know. Yeah, what we weren't getting and how that video
How does that
has had the highest activation of
Right.
any,
Mm-hmm.
which it may have. And maybe they're like, and this is why you're all idiots.
Well, we are talking about it.
It's
So
true.
There is that.
I guess it's true.
They're playing 4D chess, and I was make something so bad. They're Tim and Eric. Make something so weird and bad that you can't help but talk about it.
I am more likely to, as a prank or as the consequence of a lost bet, make someone, most likely you, Mike, have to drink one of those, like in the future.
Yeah.
So it had like where it would have never even been like anywhere on my mind before, but
Yeah.
after having that one and seeing it called Juice Force, where he's like dressed like Maverick from Top Gun. Remember, he had like he had like an Air Force helmet on and
cheap sunglasses.
and cheap sunglasses and yeah, I mean that's what craft beer is now. That's where the growth is, Mike.
Jesus Christ.
It's in yeah.
Have I ever told the story about the first time I ever interacted with any sort of branding from Voodoo Ranger? I probably have told it on this show before.
You have
Yeah.
once, but you should tell it. I think it's appropriate to tell it again.
This has to have been like 8-9 years ago at this point, right?
Yeah.
I'm still on the dating apps. I'm swiping on the dating apps, and then all of a sudden, a profile, not an ad, like not an ad. It's an actual profile for the skeleton from Voodoo Ranger.
What was your match percent?
My match percent on
Oh,
Tinder.
don't they say like you're like a 90% match?
That's not on Tinder. So he's like recreating all the poses. He's like holding a fish.
Oh, so it's
all these
multiple-
pictures. It's a profile. It's a full on profile, and I'm like, this is
Oh my
weird.
God.
And so I'm like, I'm gonna match with this and see what happens. And then they like try to talk to you like you're chatting, and it was so weird and so inappropriate that I was like, I will never consume anything from them again.
Until you were blindly
I was
given
tricked
one.
into it, re-traumatized.
You loved it. It was your favorite beer of the night.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
I forget what I said, but I was like, what the f is
Yeah.
this?
I think what you said was, I believe, you had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And you said, I believe that they achieved what they were going for
Yeah.
very efficiently or something like that, which is true.
Effectively,
Yeah.
And I hate it. I think it was like the
Yeah.
second act of that.
Yeah, probably.
It was undrinkable to me.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, it tasted like fruit juice. Well, not like real fruit juice. Like Hawaiian punch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we are. Is there anything you would like to say, Mike? Anything else?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Okay. You'll
Yeah.
save it to the end.
Oh no, I'm just talking maybe in a couple weeks.
Oh, oh. I just meant in general.
Oh no, I'm good.
Okay. Good. Well, Dave, thanks so much for coming on. I really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it,
me.
and
I
thanks
enjoyed it.
for I enjoyed it as well, and thanks for just putting up with me as it took months and months to finally get this going. So I very much appreciate it. For everyone out there listening, thanks as well, and keep the letters coming. We got a whole bunch, so we're going to start having to get through some of these. But yeah, it's you can check out the show notes. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get out of here, Dave?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity and encourage everybody to find good local beer.
Awesome. So long, everybody.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said.